What's up guys, Phoenix here. This video is going to be another DN match commentary, and this is another one of those matches that I recorded during my big 5-hour playtesting session for YCS Origins with my friend. We were on a Skype call. That's why you're not going to see anything typed in the chat windows, because we were literally talking to each other the entire time, so that's why you will see nothing happening in terms of us typing to each other on the right. But, like I said in the previous video, if you have a large bit of playtesting you want to do, I highly recommend getting on DN and just zerging games over and over again with different matchups against a friend that you trust as, a decent player, someone that that you both can learn from each other from, because it's honestly, using DN, you're able to change the outcomes of the plays that you make and stuff like that, and you're able to correct things if you feel like you made the wrong play, and you ultimately get, better quality playtesting out of it as a whole, and that's why I very, very much support using DN for playtesting for big events, like YCS Origins, which is what I am currently playtesting for. But we decided that we wanted to see exactly how the Qli mirror is played, and that is what is going to be done in this video. The Qli mirror is actually, surprisingly, everyone tells me that it's incredibly technical, and I could definitely see it because they're both very slow-paced decks, and very, very technical interactions can come up utilizing, Monarch Stormforth and stuff like that. Certain situations where you force your opponent to where Solemn Strike is actually good, stuff like that. I can definitely see that coming up in theory, but I just wanted to playtest the matchup, and so did he. So we decided, let's actually play a Qli mirror and actually see where it goes from there. Let's see what happens. What happens when you fight Cancer with Cancer? You've heard the saying, "Fight fire with fire," right? No. Fight Cancer with Cancer. Now this is what I would consider to be a very standard build of the Qliphort deck, playing floodgates like Rivalry and stuff like that, Triple Strike, a Chaos Trap Hole. I would like to fit the second one in, but I felt like the second Monarch Stormforth was just a better. I would definitely be siding the second Monarch Stormforth and playing the second Chaos Trap Hole in the main if it was to be swapped around. Things like Necro Valley, just general standard things, a little 8-card monster lineup, stuff like that. Card of Demise. Into the Voids is something that's not quite as standard, but it does just extend your play and allow you to get into Card of Demise better, and it also just complements very well on turns where you did resolve Card of Demise, stuff like that, and just the general-ish. It looks like a very standard list to me, no extra deck, because you want people to think you're playing Domain Monarchs and stuff like that, and sometimes they'll let you go first because people don't expect that deck to be that big of a threat, especially if they have built-in outs to the deck in their own engine, stuff like that. Just general theory and general-ish. So let us just jump straight into the first game, and let's see if this matchup is as technical as people want to make me believe that it is. Alright, so going into the first game of this match, I win rock, paper, scissors, which is very, very fortunate because I don't know how this deck goes second in the mirror without just having some very, very choice and specific cards, especially since there's really not a lot in the main deck of this deck that's actually good in the mirror. That's actually something that's actually really, really fundamentally flawed about the deck, is that if you play the mirror, then there are so many cards in the main deck that are dead. I think me and him both sided 8 to 11 cards, and the cards we sided weren't even that great. It was just because there was worse cards in the deck that we needed to swap out. But anyway, so I have a very, very strong turn one, opening with Scout and Summoner's Art. So I Summoner's Art for Monolith, put it in my scale, and then, setting my upstart, setting my cards, activating Card of Demise for 3, then flipping my upstart. I draw into Sacrifice, Skill Drain, Solemn Strike, and Chaos Trap Hole. Against any other deck in the format, this would be absolutely insane. This will probably constitute an auto win. But unfortunately, since this is the mirror, most of these cards actually do not matter. Strike is very, very minimal in terms of its interaction with the matchup, because of the fact that the only effect that's going to be activating is Stealth, which can't be responded to, and then they're not going to be pendulum summoning that often. That's the way that this deck just operates. And then Chaos Trap Hole, there's obviously no targets that it's good against in the deck, stuff like that. So I'm honestly, I don't even know why I didn't just discard it in the end phase and just not set it and free up my spell and trap card zones. But honestly, it's because it was the first turn of the match, I just decided to just set everything, because of the fact that when you're playtesting, even though I knew what I was playing against, you want to actually act like you don't know what you're playing against, especially if you have the first turn of the match. And especially since he has 0 extra deck cards as well, you could just easily make the assumption that he was playing Domain Monarchs and stuff like that. And that was kind of the play string that I was trying to artificially produce, and then take it from there after I found out that I was playing a mirror. But unfortunately, he has his 1 copy of Stormforth that's in his deck. In his main, he only mains 1 copy of Stormforth. and he has it, and he uses it on my sacrificed Helix to drop his stealth, and then he bounces the only back row that's actually relevant in this specific point in time, which is Drowning Mirror Force. The Chaos Trap Hole, the Solemn Strike, all that are absolutely dead. The skill drain doesn't matter either. I could have definitely flipped the skill drain on the Monarch Stormforth, but I just didn't think that that was, you know, something that was going to be optimal because of the fact that, like, I'm paying another 1,000, and yes, all the monsters are going to be huge, but because of his scales, he has, you know, bigger things than me by, you know, default, because of the fact that his Helix and his Stealth are going to gain his, make his monsters go up by 3, and then mine go down by 3. So he's in a very, very good position. While he has locked himself out of Scout for this game, he's going to consistently have the bigger monsters, which is actually just, which is very key. But I activated Duality, and, like, I've revealed Necro Valley Duality, and then another card that doesn't matter. I think it was maybe Chaos Trap Hole, the second copy, or maybe Rivalry. One of those cards. One of those cards that literally doesn't matter, so I just took the Duality. And I have Scout, I have Monolith still. I've activated Duality, so I can't special summon, so I can't Pendulum the Helix. And there's just stuff like that. I just kind of want to get to my own Stormforth because he's put a sacrifice on his Stealth, and that's very hard for me to deal with. This matchup is actually surprisingly really technical when you get down to it. So I decided to add my Stealth and set my 2 cards, my Duality and my Drowning Mirror Force. I leave the Stealth in my hands because, you know, I'm just willing to take this damage. I've got a Drowning Mirror Force down, so I could definitely just, you know, shuffle things back. I just want that to be live, and I want to potentially set up for, you know, Stealth on my next turn, because I could easily just use, I could use Scout to add another Helix, Pendulum 2 Helixes with my scales that are up, and then I could tribute both for Stealth, and, you know, Helix would pop 2 of his back row, potentially popping, you know, his scales, essentially, even though I'd rather not, you know, open him up to Scout, but that might just have to be the option because of the fact that, you know, his monsters are always going to be bigger than mine because of the way his scales are operating. But so he normal summons a Helix, and then he attacks me for 21. He turns his Stealth to defense mode, so I decided not to Drowning Mirror Force. I just decided to take the damage, and then he activates Card of Demise, getting him 2 more cards plus a Duality, and then activating the Duality, getting Soul Transition. So that allows him to draw even more cards, and then, you know, he's got the Soul Transition with Helix up, which means he can just pop my Scout at literally any point during the next turn, which is no bueno. And so in the end phase, he discards the 1 card out of his hand, which is Rivalry, the deadest card in the matchup, and then I draw a Rivalry. I was like, oh, no, let's not do this. So I end up activating my second Duality, and I take that Monarch Stormforth. I'm like, yes, absolutely, we are taking that. We are definitely taking that card. And so here, he activates Soul Transition, and he goes to tribute his Stealth, but the Stealth was actually tribute summoned, so it's actually level 8, and Soul Transition has to tribute a level 4 monster. So I tell him that in the call, he corrects it, and he's like, since I already saw the card that I drew anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and keep activating it and you know, do the Helix, and then use the Helix to pop my Scout, which is very, very unfortunate for me. But I am really low in life, so it honestly just doesn't matter ultimately, because I would have just put myself at 400 and stuff like that. But I have this Monarch Stormforth, and I have this Stealth that I searched last turn. I read my Monolith because I want to see if I tribute his Stealth, do I get to draw a card? And that is the case, because it says, you know, if you tribute summon a monster, you can draw a card in the end phase for each Qli monster that was tributed. It doesn't say your Qli monster that was tributed, so that is the key thing there. So I activate my Stormforth, and I sacrifice his Stealth, use my Stealth, and I bounce his set card that's in the middle. And just, you know, just ultimately just trying to just not die because I'm very, very far in the like dangerous life point range, because like he's got to scale up. He can Pendulum 2 next turn, which is gonna suck, and I'm just happen to be so low that I can't strike, and like all these things don't matter. Like it basically just came to the point where like if I had Drowning Mirror Forced that 1 monster, then I would have been in a winning position. But in phase, I resolve my Monolith, and I draw another Rivalry of Warlords, and I'm just like, god damn it, this card is absolutely awful, and it's going to stay in my hand, thus meaning that like I'm going to probably be just like turning off all card of Demises I could draw for the rest of the game, stuff like that. But yeah, if I had Drowning Mirror Forced the 1 Helix that was attacking me, that would have arguably been the much better play, because, you know, I would have been able to, you know, have the life needed to strike this coming Pendulum Summon, but I had no way of knowing that this is what the, you know, turn by turn basis of the game would be at this point. I had no idea that I was going to be forcing him into the only situation where this card being Solemn Strike is live. And so he Pendulums 2, and then he tribute summons for his Monolith, and then he pops my Drowning Mirror Force again. So he bounced my Drowning Mirror Force in hand, and then he popped it as well. and he tells me in the chat that the card I bounced from his side of the field with my stealth was also Drowning Mirror Force, so we both sniped Drowning Mirror Forces with the stealth. And so I just reveal my entire hand, and yeah, he reveals the Drowning Mirror Force to me there, because that's the card that I did bounce to his hand off of the stealth, which I think is neat, and I'm drawing another strike next turn, so I literally cannot win in any form or capacity. So we go into side decking, and so we're like, there's like easily like 10 cards in this deck that absolutely suck, so I take out the Rivalries, take out the Chaos Trap Hole, I go to put in the Full Houses, put in Mask of Restricts. Like, those are just the first 6 cards that I just immediately want to put in. I want to put in Anti-Spells too, potentially. Take out the Emptiness, take out the Strikes, take out the Chaos Trap Hole because they suck. Put in triple Full House, triple Mask Restrict. I want to put in Anti-Spells. I want to put in MSTs. And so I look for what the worst cards in the deck are going forward. And I know I'm going first, so I take out Necro Valley because for some reason I was like almost about to leave that in. And so I take out Necro Valley and Skill Drain because those cards are horrible as well, and then I swap the 2 Terraformings for MSTs. Yeah, like literally took out like 10 to 11 cards, and both of us did this because while the cards that we put in weren't great, they're definitely better than the cards that were in there, which is, you know, Necro Valley, Skill Drain, Emptiness, Rivalry of Warlords, Solemn Strikes. Like, all these cards are absolutely terrible. And so we go into the second game, and I get to go first because I lost. And I have Summoner's Art, I have Duality, I have a Full House, which is really good. All of these different things are available to me as options in terms of what I'm capable of doing, because I get Scout, which is very strong to have very early. And I decide that, like, in this game, in my head, I decide that I'm not going to put Monolith up because of the fact that, you know, his scales can make the fact that his scales were making his monsters constantly bigger and, you know, mine constantly smaller was something that was very, very important in my eyes. And so I decided that, you know, I'm not going to put Monolith up if I get the chance to. I'm just going to put, like, Carrier in my scale, or, like, just one of the 1 scales that, you know, gives the attack boost or attack loss, so that, you know, the monsters can, you know, stay in some form of ability to just, to be in, what is the word I'm looking for here? I want my monsters to be able to attack over his, or at least suicide with them. And so I activate card of Demise, and I draw into Soul Transition, Mask of Restrict, and another card of Demise, and I set all of them, and yeah, just being able to do different things here. So I use my Scout because I haven't gotten my search yet, and so I use Scout, search for Carrier, and activate it in my right pendulum scale. So now all of my monsters gain 300 attack. So now everything that I have is going to be 21, like that Carrier on the board, until further notice. And I've got Carrier up. Arguably, I should have put that first Carrier in my pendulum scale and then, you know, scouted for Helix and normal summoned that. But I didn't want to do that, like, I didn't want to rely on, like, just not drawing monsters off Scout, if that makes sense, because, like, if I had drawn, like, a different monster, like Stealth or something, I would have wanted that in my scale for some reason, so that I could have, like, pendulumed and attributed for Stealth and bounced it, stuff like that. Just little intricacies that, like, just come up in the games when you're playing this mirror. But, so, I have Mask of Restrict, I have Full House, I have MST, I have another card of Demise locked for the next turn. I've got a Scout up, which he has to deal with as well, because if he doesn't have Scout and I do, then I just get to go further and further into the game than he does. And so he activates his Monolith. I'm assuming that he's just going to set up a card of Demise play here at this point, and he actually just puts another scale up. And so those are both 1 and 9, but then he decides that that's not the correct play. And, you know, I'm fine with letting him take things back because of the fact that that things just are fine in that area and juncture. And so he activates Sacrifice on my Carrier, and then he activates Monarch Stormforth, and in response to the Monarch Stormforth, I flip Mask of Restrict, so he can't tribute my monster, because what he wanted to do was, instead of putting Helix in the scale, he wanted to put Sacrifice on my monster, then tribute it for the Helix, and then get a Sacrifice search for Scout. You know, that would have been really good for him, because then he would have been able to access Scout. But I just quickly take that game because I have Cara Demise down, I have Full House, I have all these different things. There's no way he can actually play that game with that Floodgate up because of the fact that, you know, he's already burned a card and stuff like that. So he gets to go first. He sets 4, activates Card of Demise. We kept our side decks identical, I think, because literally there's no other cards that we wanted to put in, or no other cards that we could put in, essentially. So he gets to his Scout off of the 4th card. So he Card of Demise for 3, and then he flipped the face down Upstart and drew a 4th card, and the Scout was the 4th card. And then he just plays the Scout, and he puts his things on board, and then he elects that he doesn't want to activate Scout. And I'm talking to him in the Skype call, and I'm like, you know, you didn't activate Scout, right? And he's like, yeah, I don't want to activate it here. I just want it on the field so that, you know, it doesn't get discarded. I'm like, alright, that's respectable, that's fine. And it ends up being the right play anyway, because of the fact that if he had gotten Scout and activated its effect, he would have been able to just put up another Pendulum Scale or Laser Clip or one of those cards. That would have been a face-up card. And I draw full house, so I could have been just, like, immediately just full housed him during the next turn if he had put another Pendulum Scale or Laser Clip up. So ends up being the right play that he gets rewarded for. And so I have Stealth, Card of Demise, Sacrifice, all these different things. These different things are all good, it seems. And so I normal summon my Stealth and ask him for, you know, if the summon's alright, and he just decides to Solemn Warning the Stealth. I'm like, alright, I can sort of respect that. And so I decide to set 4 and then Card of Demise here. And so unfortunately, I only have 3 open spots, and I was trying to get a monster off of this duality just to put in my Pendulum Scale, but I ended up revealing 3 traps, and it's just like, this is terrible. And so I ultimately decide to take Warning, because Warning is more than likely going to be the worst card off of those that, or the, what am I trying to say? The Warning is going to end up getting discarded off of Card of Demise, because I've got to decide which one I want to set. Strike, definitely don't want to set that. It's like the only strike in my deck at this point. I think I sided either 1 or 2 out. I want to say I sided out 2. And I have the Warning here, and I'm just kind of deciding, is like, looking at my back row, I have, you know, Full House, I have Sacrifice, I have the Monarch Stormforth, I have these, and I'm just like, what do I want to actually do here? And I decide I want to set the Card of Demise, and I discard the Solemns out of my hand. Now, honestly, I probably should have taken, like, the Anti-Spell or something, and, you know, just discarded it, but ultimately it doesn't end up mattering, because he just in-phase MSTs the new set, because he's like, I want to know what that is. And I was like, okay, that's respectable. I can deal with that. And so he activates Scout, and in response to his Scout activation, I just want his entire board to go away. So I activate my Monarch Stormforth, and then I just flip my my Full House, targeting my Monarch Stormforth, and then targeting, you know, his Scout, my Monarch Stormforth, and then his 3 back row. He chains MST and hits my Sacrifice. So now my Sacrifice gets to search my Scout. And so I'm like, yes, all right, this will work. This will definitely work. I still have another Solemn Strike set, so I guess I did only side out 1, potentially. That seems to be the case, and so from here, I'm not really in the strongest of positions, though, simply because of the fact that I do only have, you know, a Scout and then, you know, the cards, but we're in a very, I have a Drowning Mirror Force and a Strike, which is, Strike honestly isn't the most live thing in the world, but I do draw a Drowning Mirror Force, which seems definitely really, really good from the perspective of I can kind of bait him into it, potentially. And so I normal summon my Helix after searching it, and I debate on whether I want to end my turn or if I want to, like, Suicide. And I decide that I want to Suicide with his Carrier because of the potential of him drawing another Stealth. And if he, you know, draws a Stealth, then and I left his 2 monsters up, then that's going to be something that I get punished for. But so he draws Duality, and as he activates the Duality, I'm like, please do not get Card of Demise. And the first card he reveals off the top is Card of Demise. So now everything that I've done in terms of, like, the plays that I've tried to make, like, have basically just, you know, been for nothing, because of the fact that now I'm dealing with him going back up to 3 cards. Now he is going to 3 cards, and he feels like he's activating Duality again. I don't even know if he searched or if he shuffled off of the Drowning Mirror Force. I can't remember if he actually did, and I actually don't remember seeing it if he did when I'm watching this back either. And so he thought he was just activating Duality again, and we're laughing at each other in the Skype call because he's revealing cards. And so he just draws, he puts them back, shuffles, draws 3. He draws Helix, Sacrifice, and a set. And I'm just like, damn it. But I get rewarded and draw my Card of Demise. So we're going back and forth with this Card of Demise nonsense. And so I draw Laser Clip, Mask of Restrict, and Anti-Spell. 3 cards that kind of alright, but honestly not the best, period. Because of the fact that, you know, I have to clear his Helix in some way, shape, or form. And so I decide to activate my Scout, pay 8, and search for a monster that I'm just going to normal summon so that I take less damage. Because then if that goes into my extra deck, I could potentially just, you know, have things going in a different way with being able to Pendulum Summon next turn and, you know, basically ensure that I don't lose out of the game. At least that's the thought process. Because I have Anti-Spell, I have Mask of Restrict, which means he can't tribute monsters. I can't tribute monsters either, but I'd rather just wait on the Mask of Restrict. Honestly, he could, you know, top deck a Stealth, something like that, get rewarded for it, but ultimately, it just doesn't end up, like, clicking to me that I should probably just activate the Anti-Spell immediately. but I don't. It ends up not actually mattering, because if he had drawn like something like Scout, or no, his Scout's gone. If he had drawn something to put in his Pendulum Scale to make his things even bigger, then that would have been a problem. But he ends up drawing Full House for his next turn, and that ends up being the most deciding factor of this entire like thing, because all three of my card of Demises are gone. I activated one. I activated one of them, and then the other one got MST'd, and then the third one, you know, resolved, and so I can't really do anything. So he targets my Laser Clip, my Scout, and my 3 back row, and that's essentially just like a blowout at this point, because now he's very, very far ahead in terms of cards that he has access to. And I decided to keep the Carrier in my hand because I'm like, he can draw a monster and kill me, or if he doesn't, I could draw a 9 scale, and if I draw a 9 scale, then I'm going to be able to Pendulum Summon. But he resolves his third card of Demise. He resolves another card of Demise. He draws it for turn, and then he just normal summons another monster, plays Helix in his scale, sets a card, and passes turn. And so I drew a scale, but it wasn't the right scale. It was 2 1s because I had Carrier and Stealth. Those are both 1 scales. And he reveals that he has Solemn Strike face down, and that's basically just the way this match ends, which is very, very interesting. The fact that most people would say that whoever goes first in the Qli match period is going to win the match. Like, we even quipped to each other when we started the match in the Skype call. When I won Rock, Paper, Scissors, he was like, that's probably the match, and we just laughed for a second. But like the fact that he ended up being able to actually come out on top of that, because this matchup is actually rather technical, and there are blowout cards like Full House and stuff like that. There are some misplays that can happen on either side, stuff like that. There's actual different things that ultimately just kind of make the matchup seem very, very good in terms of it being a good mirror. It's very technical, and it's not something I've seen in a really long time. But anyway, that is it for this video. As always, guys, let me know what you think about this type of video and the decks in question in the comments down below. Cancer fighting cancer. Is this how we find a cure? Who knows? But other than that, as always, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the nonsense you usually do. Links are in the description to my Facebook and Twitch links if you want to check those out. That is what they are there for. If you want to play me for some of these potential DN videos, then send me a message when I'm on DN. If I'm not doing one of my large playtesting sessions with my friend, then I would more than likely be happy to get a game or a match with y'all. And if you want to play, you know, fun decks, or if you want to play meta decks, that's perfectly up to you. Just message me and find out. Like I said, if I'm not doing one of these large playtesting sessions on Skype, then I will more than likely be happy to play you for one of these videos if that is what you desire. But other than that, if you want to support me, clicking ads on my videos and disabling ad block when you view my videos is the best way to support me. Helps me make money, helps me out a lot. I can't express that enough, and it would be really cool of you guys if that's something you could take the few seconds out of your day to do. Even if it involves taking your ad block off for a few seconds, refreshing the video, clicking ad, then putting it back on when you're done. It would be greatly appreciated, as I've already said. But other than that, that is all for this video, and as always, guys, take care.